Hello and welcome back. We are in part 3 of our series, A God Who Blesses and a People Who Bless. So far we discovered in part 1 that the 4 themes seen in Abraham's life perpetuated by Jesus Christ are to be continued through our lives. We showed a God who blesses and a people who in turn bless. In part 2, we established 3 contours that reveal what shapes blessing, by who and when, and how the kingdom you are a part of to steward this most fundamental of God's character be a blessing, because we serve a God who blesses. And now we come to part 3 and ask the question, this is all fine, but what about where you and I are right now? This whole blessing thing is fantastic, but how do I do it? What do I do? And no doubt you are meant to perpetuate the blessing of the inheritance promised to Abraham, as we read in the scripture in Genesis, where God said, through you, Abraham, I will bless all the nations of the world. That was further perpetuated by Jesus Christ, inherited by Christ, who blessings flowed through him, and we get to share in as joint heirs and therefore live out that here and now. By blessing, we mean reconciling people back to the Creator, to be what God intended for them to be in the first place, to be the kind of human beings God intended when He saw them and thought about them when He fearfully and wonderfully made us. So there are 4 points in today's part 3 and final session of our A God Who Blesses and a People Who Bless. 4 points on how to be a blessing. Number 1, the key of compassion. It's the motivator to do more than you thought possible. When Christ showed compassion, things happened. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30 says, Jesus talking here, he says, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Nowhere do we find a religious Jesus going about condemning this one and judging that one and getting rid of whoever he wants to. No, instead we find Jesus designating himself as gentle, humble of heart, rest for your souls. In other words, he's the one that is compassionate towards you and I. He refreshes and gives us life where there seems to be no life. Again, Matthew chapter 15 and verse 32, the Bible says this, and Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I feel compassion for the people, because they have remained with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want them to send them away hungry, for they might faint along the way. There's just the compassion of Jesus. The people had hung around him for a whole 3 days. Can you imagine that? He had words of life, and so people were fascinated by him and loved to listen to him. It's simple, and it's meant to be that simple. Show kindness and compassion to those around you, and the world becomes a better place for it. Not only for the ones you're helping, but for you as well. Mark Buther is a fund manager, and he tells how in New York he stopped one winter morning, introduced himself, and gave his coffee and bagel to an obviously very cold and sad-looking young man sitting at the bus stop. Turns out it was a young man at college whose father owned several companies, and in gratitude moved his business to Mark, which set him on a course to become a top fund manager in New York Stock Exchange, just because of compassion. Simple, as easy as that. Giving someone a cup of coffee and a bagel. How simple can it get? Number 2, practice gratitude. It's an emotional lifesaver and uplifting mood changer. Being thankful for what you have and expressing gratitude can help you develop a positive outlook to life. More importantly, it can also help you see the good in others and appreciate the positive impact they have on your life. Gratitude can also inspire you to be a blessing to others by sharing your blessings with them. We become like the Lord, generous towards others and grateful. I once knew a vice principal of a school, and he always used to say to me, have an attitude of gratitude. We always laughed about it, but it's true. Have that attitude of gratitude, and you'll change your outlook to life and others around you as well. Number 3, use your talents and resources to help others. You enrich their lives and you gain insight and wisdom. You see, each person has unique talents and resources that can be used to help others. And this has been a theme throughout our particular series we're doing. A God who blesses and a people who are meant to bless. Whether it's donating your time, your money, your skills, find ways to give back to your community and make a difference in the lives of those around you. Look for opportunities to volunteer, to mentor, to serve. At any one given time, influencing several men's lives, some young, some a bit older, as I talk with them, encourage with them, and give out what's inside of me to those around me. It's simple, folk. It's not meant to be rocket science. It's as simple as just a cup of coffee and a bagel. That's how simple it can really get. For the past 3 days, Fred Burley had been sleeping in a tent on the campus of Gordon University in Georgia. Hungry and homeless, he had been unsuccessful in finding work, which he needed to survive. As 2 police officers approached Fred, they questioned him why he was sleeping on the campus, and what they then learned affected them profoundly. Fred had traveled 6 hours on a bicycle in 100-degree weather so that he could attend his 2nd year in college. With no support, his plan was to camp until school began a few weeks later, and during that time Fred had hoped to find work. Touched by this 19-year-old's desire to succeed, the 2 officers spent their own money for a motel room for Fred. Word then traveled throughout the community about Fred's situation and their acts of generosity from these policemen. The owner of the motel allowed Fred to stay there until school reopened. A local pizza gave Fred a job as a dishwasher. Most importantly, the community started a GoFundMe donation page for Fred that raised over $180,000. Can you imagine that? Wow! What began as acts of generosity by those 2 officers blossomed into an entire community giving back. Today, years later, the community of Conyers continues in these efforts by launching several charity events to help low-income families. It's as easy as that, folk. Not rocket science at all. Number 4, be a source of positivity. You'll help others pioneer new ways to progress in life. We all hit blockages and stoppages and things that seem to hinder us from going forward. But if you're that source of positivity, that positive outlook to life, it gives people the opportunity to watch you and pioneer new ways to progress in their lives. In a world that can often be so negative and cynical, be a source of positivity and encouragement. A recent study followed 70,000 women from 2004 to 2012 and found that those who were optimistic had a significantly lower risk of dying from several major causes of death, quite common in the US today. And helping others to face life in spite of challenges means helping them to begin with what is within their grasp and to see opportunity where there seems to be no other way out. Experiments show evidence that altruism is hardwired into the brain, and it's pleasurable. Helping others may just be the secret to living a life that is not only happier, but also healthier and wealthier in many aspects. I'm not talking just dollars here. I'm talking about wealthier in the sense of good relationships and a full life, more productive, more meaningful. Who doesn't want that? As a resource yourself, help others to start living not who things when things are great and plentiful, but maybe when you are limited and don't have a lot of resources, yet you're prepared to be a resource yourself for others through encouragement, through a positive outlook, as we've talked about, or just being there for others. We can all give from a place we are right now presently at, even if it is as simple as giving time for a conversation to someone, cup of coffee and a bagel. We took a team to a retirement nursing home and spent time going from room to room, greeting and chatting and just walking amongst and talking to these older retired folks, some of them bedridden, some could hardly walk. And, as we went around, we could literally see the spirits of these older folk lifted. Many of them didn't have even family that would visit them. And so we're strangers, we're going around there, and these folk were just so happy to talk about life and about some of the experiences they had and just share and have conversation. In 1 hour of doing this, in just 1 hour, the entire team that we took in left uplifted, laughing, smiling, with just a real sense of euphoria. And they went into the rest of their day excited to face that day. And later on we heard how a number of the team decided to make it their habit to go out and help others on a regular basis. Offer words of affirmation and support to those who are struggling. And look for ways to lift others up with your words. This is the same concept of the God who blesses and wants us to bless. Your words, your actions mean something even as simple as a cup of coffee and a bagel. By being a positive influence in the lives of those around you, you can be a blessing and make a difference in the world. So here are our 4 points again. First of all, we said the key of compassion, the motivator to do more than you thought possible. 2, practice gratitude. It's an emotional lifesaver and an uplifting mood changer. 3, use your talents and resources to help others. You enrich their lives and you gain insight and wisdom as you work with them. 4, be a source of positivity. You help others pioneer new ways to progress in life where they've perhaps been stuck and couldn't go forward. And suddenly you open a way of freshness and of vision, of seeing things differently than just the negative. So we close with this. God, life giver and sustainer, is the God who blesses and in turn stewards us with the responsibility to extend blessing to all of those around us. Thank you for joining us in this 3-part series, A God Who Blesses and a People Who Bless. I hope you have caught the vision of our hearts here at New Life to extend what we've been given so freely, the blessing of the Lord, to the whosoever will. God bless you, and our prayer is, may He continue to lead and guide and bless you in such ways that you stand back and are amazed at the God who blesses.